Hello and welcome to Try Talking Sport, hosted by me, Joanne Murphy. You have come to the right place if you're looking for inspiration, encouragement, motivation, and even a little bit of entertainment. Whether you are an athlete, adventurer, endurance enthusiast, or simply have an interest in sport, thanks for tuning in and being part of our adventure. It's been another whirlwind week in the world of triathlon and endurance sport, with more races being cancelled or postponed and falling victim to COVID-19. Ironman UK and Ironman Ireland have both been cancelled outright for 2020, with the 2021 dates for both events announced earlier this week. The 2021 dates include a change for Ironman Ireland, which has now moved to August, which should, fingers crossed, result in a sunny, dry race day for all, hopefully. Yesterday afternoon we were advised of the cancellation of the Berlin Marathon due to take place in September, and the Irish government announced that all mass gatherings are to be banned until August of this year. Whilst this Irish decision hasn't come as a surprise to many of us, it does have a profound effect on the sports industry and beyond in Ireland. Since going into self-isolation on the 14th of March, I've been busy doing things behind the scenes on Try Talking Sport and trying to get a long to-do list of jobs done that seemed to make it onto the list but never got marked as completed. I've enjoyed getting the recent podcasts together and enjoying the structure and routine that the weekly episodes bring to my days. But with the weekly shows and our Try Talking Sport live broadcasts, coupled with moving all of our BPW Business Club activities online, I haven't stopped to take a breath since going into lockdown or to take some time out. Everything escalated so quickly across the board, and in trying to remain connected and keep on top of it all, it's really been a bit manic. You would think that losing pretty much all of your income, your announcing and event marketing jobs would result in a quiet time, but it hasn't. I've kept busy, and yes, I have loved it, but now that we know for definite that there won't be any work until August at the earliest, I've decided to take a step back a little and spend more time training than talking, enjoy the bit of sunshine that we get, and try and get the long list of never done jobs completed. I'll probably never get this opportunity to have a time out over the next 3 or 4 months again, as once we get back to work, it will be, I hope, very busy. So, why am I telling you all of this? Well, I've decided to go back to delivering a podcast episode every fortnight, with the odd bonus episode popped into each month. But don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just adjusting to the situation we find ourselves in generally with COVID-19. Plus, the Try Talking Sport live sessions on Facebook will continue twice per week on Tuesday and Thursday nights. Last night we chatted for over 90 minutes with professional athlete Laura Siddle. There were some very funny moments over the course of the conversation, as well as incredible insight from the multiple Ironman champion. Last Thursday we heard from Ger Kennedy on his Antarctic ice swimming adventures, and this Thursday, tomorrow, we will chat with Irish triathlete Con Doherty, another session not to be missed. If you do miss these live on the night, you can go back and watch them on the Try Talking Sport Facebook page. I'm also looking forward to taking on some of the virtual challenges. Both Ironman VR and the Castle Triathlon virtual racing series will provide some great motivation to get my own training on track, and whilst I'm looking on them as a bit of fun and an opportunity to get moving again, they do provide a nice carrot to get some focus and consistency with my own training. Now, to today's show, I'm actually really excited about it. It is a super episode with Bryan McCrystal, an Irish athlete that is synonymous with success, determination and raw passion. From a young age, Bryan has shown great form as an athlete, from early years in school to his days as a professional footballer, before moving across to running, cycling and now triathlon. Ireland's Ironman record holder has inspired many athletes, young and old, as he paved his own road in sport, playing football with Leeds United, Dundalk, Newry City, to name but a few. He moved into cycling after some time and effort spent running the roads around Dundalk. As a cyclist, he has clocked up some great results at the Des Hanlon Memorial, Ross Moon, the Tour of Ulster, and in 2016 was second in Stage 2 of the Ross, which was an incredible achievement and testament to his work rate and consistency in training. In the same year, he also raced at the Ironman World Championships in Kona. Switching in and out of the professional ranks of triathlon in recent years, supporting his family business, his wife Karen and children Rian and Era, he is now racing as a professional triathlete and brings us in this episode through some key insights to his success, the highs and lows of racing and how he aspires to be the best athlete that he can possibly be. This episode with Bryan was recorded last Friday before the announcement regarding the cancellation of Ironman Ireland for 2020. I hope you enjoy the show. I certainly enjoyed the conversation with Bryan. Bryan McCrystal, thank you so much for joining me here today. Delighted to get a little look inside your pain cave with all those wonderful race numbers behind you in your shed. Bryan, how are things during COVID-19 for you?
Going okay. If anything, I'm doing more. First of all, thanks for having me. Grand. it's just life is put on hold, but it's the same for everyone, I suppose.
And you say life is put on hold, but yet you're training more. So it's just life is different as opposed to maybe life being put on hold so much.
Yeah, you just probably have to adapt, and probably the training wise, the last number of years, I limit the amount of time I use the turbo because I'd rather be outside. You limit that, but now it's all on that. So you're kind of getting back into the routine of just all indoors kind of work. And it's all psychological, really. You know, you can deal with it if you want to. If you have to deal with it, you just deal with it.
And speaking of being indoors, you raced as part of the Zwift Pro Race. So you've jumped on the Zwift side of things as well?
Yeah. Oh, don't bring it up. Yeah, that was an experience. Yeah, probably training a wee bit hard lately. I just was not ready for the start. Well, I was ready. My body wasn't ready. So my heart and legs, lungs, everything was just out of sync. And I was just gone. 3 minutes in, there's just that when you're racing and you're in a particular point in a race, there's just that subconscious that, you know, I can hold this level of hurt. And I just knew I just couldn't hold it. I had to pull the pin. I just had to go, if I don't, well, not that I had to, I was forced to. But look, it's one of those things.
A bit of fun at the end of the day, really, and distraction.
I keep saying it's a bit of fun, but it's not really. When you get your, excuse the language, your arse handed to you, it doesn't feel like fun. But it is.
But you might shock.
It's not the first time it's happened. It won't be the last either.
And the other thing as well, Bryan, is you can only get better from here as well in terms of what people will expect from some of those big names that were on the race with you. So maybe you'll frighten them all next week, and we'll see the BMC back that we know with that high power, high strength, and superb talent.
I don't know. Like, what they've done is they've got all the best triathletes, or anybody, all the pro athletes, into a race. But that race, it's just a 14-mile bike race, that was. So like it wasn't really lending itself to anything remotely to do with triathlon. It was just the athletes were triathletes. Throw them in a bike race, work away, lads. So.
Well, it definitely provided a bit of focus for people, and I tuned in and I actually really enjoyed watching both the women's and the men's race. But Bryan, I'm going to come back to way before all of this, because you've been an athlete for a long time. From a young age, you were a champion athlete, and then moving across to football, into cycling, pro triathlete, back out of the pro area, back in again. So bring us right back, Bryan, to where all of this interest in sport came from a young age.
I wouldn't have a great memory, to be honest. I would forget about things, not been smart. But I struggled to remember before I was 9 or 10. I can't really remember what went on. The first memory is just arriving down to a local football field for training, like under nines, with a very close friend and guy who guided me. Definitely the first part of my life. Michael O'Connor, he passed away last year or this year. I just remember being on the pitch and just falling in love with football. And there was nothing that would, from that day on, I found out what football was. I saw that there was a professional game. That by that evening I was supporting Man United, and all I wanted to do was play football for a job. That's all I wanted to do. And that was just in my mind from the whole way up, you know.
So where did you go on that journey with football?
I went up, I played with my local team, played with selected onto the town team, Dundalk, played with all the age groups growing up. And then just played in tournaments that were watched by scouts in England. You're basically putting yourself on show. I was lucky enough that I got spotted. I was over on trial to a number of clubs when I was 16. I was on the fringes of the Irish team, but I wasn't getting in. That team I was unlucky because that team was very strong. That team won the European Championship, so it was Brian Kerr's start of his glory kind of managed our international days. John O'Shea was actually the centre half that I was fighting to get in against, and a few others. A boy called Jim Goodwin, there was another Brian Callahan. So I was always the fifth choice, but I got into the Irish squads when I was 18, but not early on. And yeah, just got over to England when I was 17. I was there for a few years. I was meant to go over a year earlier, but my mother wouldn't let me go because she made me do the leaving cert.
Fair play, Mammy.
Yeah.
And what was it like leaving home at 16, 17 to go and chase that dream of playing football?
Couldn't wait. I was gone. I was the type of guy. I wasn't a mammy's boy. I wasn't. I was definitely a fella who could look after myself. I could feed myself. I wasn't. I could, but I always let my mother do it. Wasn't stupid. But all I wanted to do was get away. I thrived on the responsibility of being on my own when I was away. I would have been away with, my group was about 10, 15 of us, from lads from all over the world, Australians, New Zealand, there was Europeans, there was a lot of Irish there, English lads, and there was probably 70, 80% of them were nearly crying themselves to sleep, with homesickness, But I was just looking at them sideways going, what's wrong with you? But different personalities, I suppose. But I had no problem being away.
Do you think at a young age, Bryan, that you were mentally very strong to be able to deal with the level of responsibility and the being away from home? And has that stood to you now as your career has progressed as a triathlete?
Yeah, probably, yeah. Yeah. I was always told, it stems from when you need not a lot of luck in life and you need to meet the right people at the right time. I was very lucky to meet some good people at the right time in my life, and they put real stamps on me, the kind of, stuff that really you hear things or statements been said to you, and they just they engrave that kind of method, that way of being for the rest of your life. So I met a few people like that. It was always kind of the first bit of advice I ever heard as a child was be a leader. Don't follow anyone. And I've never followed anyone. In anything I do, I've never followed anyone. I'll look at what they're doing and I'll take stock of what they're doing, but I'll not follow them. I'll make my own mind up. And I was never one to follow the crowd. I always done my own thing. Like even when I was playing football, like I'll give you an example of it. Like it's as simple as this: when you're a young fella and you're playing your football and you're doing your bits and bobs. But I always had that dream in the back of my head. But I had groups of friends that were footballers and weren't footballers. Like any group of young fellas, whatever, you'd find yourself, for example, going to the cinema at 8:30. And they'd be having popcorn and butter on their popcorn or whatever. And I wasn't having any of that. Or afterwards, we go for a burger and chip afterwards. Now, it's a small example, but they were the sacrifices back then that I was trying to make to be a footballer. Or even drinking. I didn't start drinking until I was 21. And the amount of times that the lads would have said, oh, go on. That kind of, I never give into that. I wasn't one to kind of, and I've seen friends of mine, the nearly lads who are saying, go on, they'd break you. And you do go on, and that happens all the time. But I'm just my own man, just do my own thing. Definitely don't think I have all the answers, but I do look at what other guys do, and you can copy them and then make it your own, I suppose. But that's kind of how I approach things. And
then moving from football to cycling and triathlon, following your passion for sport continuously.
Yeah, well, I had a lot of, towards the end of my soccer career, like I packed it in at 26, 27. I had 2 ACL replacements. I suffered all that disappointment of not making it in England and coming home, playing League of Ireland, and it just didn't get the rub of the green coming home. And then I had 2 injuries, very bad injuries, and then I actually got injured the 3rd time. So I packed all that in at 27. My personality as well is, I do make decisions in haste, which is a fault in me, and I just quit. Just driving up to training one night, I just turned the car around and never went back, and basically retired. just didn't like it anymore. Just wasn't doing it for me. And that broke my heart. But I got stuck into running straight away. But I always ran. I always done my own training. And I did the Dublin Marathon that year. And I started to not really like it towards the marathon as it came along, because it was just running every day of the week. Now, I didn't have to run every day of the week, but I had to run, my personality as well, I had to run most days of the week to get the result I wanted, you know. So I was on for that elusive sub 3 hour time. I was sucked into that bubble. I had great support from lads in Dundalk in the Northeast Runners Club, fell in with them, a lot of unbelievably experienced runners back in the day. I fell in with them and they taught me how to run, how to feel, what to do, how to do it, when to do it. So it was a very quick learning process. But I got to the Dublin Marathon, I did 2:57. I went off at 2:50 pace like an idiot, you know, do the first and then just died. But don't know how I made under 3 hours, but I did. But like that, in haste, I quit running after that, hated it, because it was all the running. Just before the Dublin Marathon, I saw Eve doing a triathlon badly, and I said, that's the sport for me. So the following January, I jumped into that. So.
And never looked back?
Well, if you look at it, I've been in and out of sports, really. Cycling is my strongest suit, I suppose, but I went triathlon for a few years and then left triathlon, went cycling for a couple of years and back. But this is probably the longest time I've kind of stuck to triathlon, you know.
What is it about triathlon, Bryan, that keeps you coming back to it?
Well, I'm competing at a decent level, I suppose. And in any sport, if you're any good, you like to race against the best and pit yourself up against the best in the sport. So probably lucky enough that I can kind of compete against decent lads. That's probably it, you know, because with cycling, you can't go at cycling on your own. You need to be in a team. And I was in a good couple of teams in cycling, but it's just not sustainable. That's if you want to compete. You can race with your club all right, but if you look in Ireland, the top lads getting results in the cycling game, they're not with clubs, they're with teams. Every rider in Ireland gets frustrated with their own club, and if you look at how they all leave to go to a team, because the club won't support guys who want to race. So that team element thing, there's no backbone, there's no structure, so it won't last too long. And that frustrated me, because I actually set up, along with Damien Shaw, the team of SIA for a couple of years. We put a good crew of lads together. It's a lot of effort, a lot of admin, I did mostly everything. And then you have to ride. So I was wrecked out mentally after a couple of years. So we had a lot of success, won a lot of races, done massive things nationally. I kind of had enough of that, and I said, triathlon is a better one man game. So with triathlon, you don't have to rely on a team. You just rely on yourself solely. Because as a cyclist, you can train all year and be putting out the best power in the country and finish in the bunch. You know, the strongest very rarely wins a cycling race, but the strongest will always win an Ironman or a triathlon.
Bryan, you've had some superb success as a cyclist. I mean, you were the winner of the Des Hanlon, Ross Moon, the Tour of Ulster, but the biggest one, and I presume this stands out for you, second in the second stage of the Ross. That must have been some achievement.
Yeah, it was that elusive kind of, you know, every Irish rider once dreamed of riding in the Ross, and then to just get around is an achievement. Definitely the level that it went to over the last number of years. But being up the road, and self and Owen Morton flew off the front and stayed away. But I had experience of being out in the front. I've been caught a few times. So we worked together well. Owen was the strongest man at the end. In racing, and you'll never remember who finishes second in any race, but friggin' everyone always reminds me of that. I wish people wouldn't remind me about it. You know,
but it was such a super achievement. Yeah. I mean, to get so close
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something to be sneezed at. I mean, and it's not just about the race on that day. It's about the level of commitment and work that you put in to get to the point to be able to get there.
I wasn't meant to ride the bike that year. I told the lads I had enough of just riding the bike. So I still stayed on the team and did the admin and all the organising, but we weren't getting the results. And it was before Ross Moon, 4 weeks before Easter of, I think that was 2016. So that Easter, I think I got Roger Aiken, one of the best bike riders the country has seen, was on our team at the time, but frig me, he's a frustrating frigger. Roger would like to recalibrate himself every year, you know. He's been the best rider, and I hope he listens to this. He's the best rider that I've probably witnessed, seen the style, how he rides, he's just unbelievable. But what he would do is every year it was as if he was starting from scratch. He would change cleats, saddles, the whole lot, positions, the whole lot. And he couldn't get it right this year. So he texted me when he was away in Mallorca on the side of the road, probably fixing his cleats, and said, I'm not doing the Ross. So I was like, frig that. So now I have to do it. So I had to change my plans. And that's why I done the Ross that year, because we didn't have, lads to compete. Well, we did, but I was kind of taking the decision as the chief of along with Brendan and Damien, to kind of say, listen, Damien wasn't on the team that year. He was with on Puss. But I said, look, I'll ride it. And actually, that's why I done that Ross that year. And I went straight to triathlon, did Barcelona then for that Irish record later on in the year, So it was a mix. That was a mix of a year.
A good year, though.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll have your best years when you don't plan, or best races that you don't plan. I didn't plan that. I had no type of training done for that Ross at all. It was all triathlon, all running. I stopped running 4 weeks before the Ross. That was it.
You mentioned there about him being a good rider, Bryan, but what makes a good rider? What is the definition of a good rider?
Cyclist now. Well, you obviously have to have the physiology. You have to, Mommy and Daddy had to put something into you that's half decent. And then you have to have the will to work, the will to improve. And then you have to be smart, because you won't get anywhere riding. You'll get results all right, but you won't get the proper results if you're not smart. You just have to have the head for racing.
In coming and talking to you about that move into triathlon and your Irish record and your success as an athlete, as a triathlete, to date, what has been the highlight of your triathlon career?
I'd say Roth a couple of years ago when I done the 807. It was like it just all came together, because you don't have you can go through your whole career or racing career and you just never get it out on race day. There's something that just goes wrong that just makes you fail. But Roth was just one of those days where it just came together, and I was glad I got the return of it with the clock, because it's all about when you're going for a fast race like Roth, something like that. I always have said, don't race the clock, race the race. But I was going there for a time, and to get it was kind of just the moment where everything kind of came together.
And in terms of things coming together, what happens when they don't come together, Bryan?
Well, you just have to talk to yourself during the day. As it's not working out, you just have to ask yourself a very honest question. Can you go any better? Can you go any harder? Can you go any faster? And if the answer is no, then you just have to accept it. You have to accept it, what's happening on the road. There's nothing you can do. You just have to keep going, or pull out, like I've done many a time in races. DNFs, last Wales I DNF'd and stuff like that, and you've injuries and stuff like that happens too.
And when do you know it's the time to DNF in a race, Bryan? Because it's obviously a very difficult decision to make, and you probably have a good angel on one side telling you, go on, keep going, and then you have the bad angel on the other side saying, no, you need to pull the pin.
Well, if we pick Wales, that was last September, that was like a mix of everything. This is going to be a day, this is happening today. And then it just went from being unbelievably, this could be the day, whereas I get a podium here, to not actually getting a finisher's medal. And what happened there for me, You see, I'll just take you back. After Roth, I was knocked down. I was hit by a van riding at about 50 kilometers an hour. And ever since that bloody day, I just have this, my back does give me bother. And it's manageable, but as the race goes on and different types of terrain, it kills me. So in hilly courses where I have to change positions and the focus is going down, when I'm riding on hills and up out of the bars, there's pressure on my lower back. And so for the first 3 hours of Wales, I was flying. And then just the last hour, I was just going backwards. So I just could not hold the front bunch. And that's the first time I was ever in an Ironman where I was at the front of the race. Now, I know the Australian lad was up the road, about 40 seconds up the road, but I was in the chase group, perfect position. Come out of the water at 55 minutes with lads that I was going, did I take a shortcut? Or you're like, what's happening here? And then you had to run about 5 kilometers of friggin' transition. I was nearly going to die when I got to the bike.
Edit, 1 kilometre, Brian, 1 kilometre.
Yeah, felt like 5. But I got on the bike and I was just A1, just straight up the road, caught up with Romain Goulam, French lad, and Phil Graves. Skipper was with me and I was perfect. So easy. It felt easy. And I said, right, just don't do anything mad here. Just ride this. Don't even try to drop these lads. Just ride with them. And just run your own marathon. It's not a fast marathon, it's a solid marathon. And I got off and tried to run, but I was gone. My back was just like that. It was just so tight and there was nothing that could do, and it wasn't worth it, wasn't worth it. And then the head went a bit as well, it's just kind of, you talk to yourself and you give yourself every out possible. You say, frig it, you've done plenty this year, whatever. I'm not one of these lads who, finish no matter what. I'm past that stage. Like, there's lads out there that'll say, finish a race, hands and knees, doesn't matter. That's crap. I just didn't finish. There was plenty more races, I suppose.
I do remember actually in Dunleary and your back. I remember seeing you running along the esplanade and your back was giving out to you as well.
Yes, Wicklow's the same. You see it. Wicklow was out of the Saddlemoors. That's a beast of a course.
And Brian, how do you manage your own expectations going into a race that you think you'll have the measure of and that you'll do well in? How do you manage your expectations when, 1, things go right, and 2, when things go wrong?
Well, I don't know. All you can do is give it an honest effort. I don't know managing your expectations. It's like you dream of something, you hope of something, but does it actually happen? You won't know until after. So all you can do is your best. You're not in control of anybody else, only yourself. Anything can happen on race day. Anything. So I don't know. Your expectations always should be high all the time. So managing your expectations isn't a problem. It's just hoping that you get all the training sessions that you do leading up to something. It all comes together and shows. You can actually show what you're doing on training day into race day. It doesn't always happen like that.
And you bring me right into the question about Ironman Cork, because anything can happen on race day. And as we know, Ironman Ireland last year was probably the worst weather we've had in a summer in one day in a long, long time. And you were lining up against one of the best triathletes in the world and gave an unreal account of yourself.
That day now I've raced plenty of days on bikes like that. So it's not nice, don't get me wrong. I wasn't smiling at the start of the race. I wasn't looking forward to it. But again, I go back to that accepting thing. You accept it, it's there. How do I tackle this? You straight away think of strategy. I had a couple of lads I was ringing, is this swim going ahead? I was on the phone. So you're always preparing, So I was straight onto the Windy app on the phone, looking at where the wind is blowing, picking certain parts of the course where you're going to maybe ride harder. Then you kind of, figuring things out like that, what you're going to wear. I felt awful sorry for the age groupers that didn't start an hour after us. Like, they had a harder time than we had, because we were off straight away. But then you have to make tactical decisions straight away instinct, because then when I was on the start line, they drew our names out of a hat. So it was who went first, second, third and fourth. So I went off fourth. So straight away I'm looking at who's first, second and third, and I'll say, oh, I'll catch him, I mightn't catch him. It was the guy that finished third, I forget his name, Mark, a German lad. The lads that I was worried about was obviously Alistair and then Van Hoonacker. So I was making the calculations up in my head, how far they started behind me. So where I wanted to go out at a certain effort, I changed that straight away, because Brownlee was only 3 minutes behind me. So the last thing I wanted was him catching me. So I went out hard. So then straight away, we all know how he races. He doesn't do anything easy. So he was going to come out hard. So when I was hearing splits on the road, I figured he wasn't catching me. Or at one point, he actually put 20 seconds into me. So I just changed my effort a little bit. Next time I heard a split from the side of the road, and I had got those 20 seconds back. So I knew I was on the right effort, that he wasn't going to catch me. And then all of a sudden, that gap went out big time, because he figured as well that he actually, I'm not catching this guy. I need to pull back. So then I went on and got that gap. So there is a bit of thinking to it. Like, it's not just about putting the head down and riding. But I wasn't racing against him for the win. Like, not that I gave up from any point. Like, this is Alistair Brownlee. Like, he was always going to win. The only thing that would have helped me win that race was that he just stopped on the road, because he had never actually done an Ironman before. That was my only hope and prayer, that like some of the best athletes in the world can handle Ironman. That's why they don't do it. You know, some of the fastest lads, but obviously he can. And he didn't bloody stop. He kept going, you know. It just shows you how good and how strong he is. But I kept going as well, as much as I could. I wasn't in great running shape anyway going into it. It was good. It was a good race. I enjoyed it. Sure, the crowd, the place was unbelievable, you know. Class.
Windmill Hill.
Yeah, that was good, yeah. I walked up that the first lap.
I heard that, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody obviously got their information wrong.
Yeah.
That's a tough piece of the course, but also separates the men from the boys, I think, across not only the professionals, but also the age group athletes across the board. In terms of your own performance on the day, were you happy with how you performed?
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't have been able to get another ounce out of myself.
And what was it like when Alistair passed you? Did
Very
you know
slow.
he was coming?
Oh, yeah. Very slow, to be honest. He was dying. You know, and even after he passed me out, I thought I might still have a chance. He could still stop. So you never know what's going to happen in Ironman. So even after he passed me, it was like that kind of pass like that. I was like, this boy might just buckle yet. But he didn't. But you could see, with the way the laps were going, you could see. Didn't see him for the first couple of laps, and then all of a sudden there he is, like a fucking gazelle going over the road.
Well, he probably has about 20 kg on you, does he?
More. I'd say 30, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah. From your own experience in terms of racing, yourself and Alistair were, you know, in my personal opinion, watching it, were the stars of the show in terms of the pro racing. I mean, there was an awful lot of eyes on you and eyes on Alistair, and I think everybody in the country, as much and all as we love Alistair Brownlee, but, you know, we were all rooting for you to take that win on home soil and win your Ironman race in Ireland.
Give it a shot, I suppose. It's a pity there's no... Well, I think it's to be rescheduled, I'm not sure, but there's still no pro race. It's a pity the men's pro field isn't allowed into it, you know, because you'd probably have the likes of Chris Minturn maybe entering it, but he's still a bit young. He probably would want to, but he probably shouldn't, because he's so much to do, I'd say around 70.3. But the fact that it's in Youghal, you could see him at it.
Yeah, and he did mention in the show that we did that he had thought about doing it, and he had questioned Gav, Noble and Aina about doing it for last year, and that he was just, himself would say he was being too eager and it was the better decision not to do it.
He'd good advice there, because like he's still young. The young head would have entered that. If he hadn't had any advice with older experienced heads like Gav and Aina, he'd be on that start list, you know, and that would it wouldn't be the right decision, you know. He was racing with his heart rather than his legs, I'd say, if he had made that decision. But he make the right decision.
It's actually the race that he wants to win. Of all the races in the world, it's the race he wants to win because it's his
and he will.
Yeah. And just coming back to that point about the professional men at the Cork race. So obviously we know at this stage, because of the global pandemic, Ironman Ireland has been postponed for the moment, but it was a Women for Tri race to encourage more women to take part in triathlon and in Ironman. And it was a big honour and prestigious thing for Ironman Ireland to get that as the European race. So it will be interesting to see what happens if the race goes ahead this year, whether it will still retain that Women for Tri that status. You mentioned Chris Minturn, Bryan, and a lot of them look up to you for inspiration and look to everything that you've done and you've achieved in your career. How does that make you feel?
Oh yeah, I'm glad I can, help, inspire people out there, but I don't think it's for anything. I don't think it's for me to dwell upon. It's for other people to, I can't sit back here. Oh yeah, I'm deadly. It's all I can say is thanks. I appreciate it, but there's nothing really I can kind of, I'm just doing what I love. And if I can help people in any way and show them that anything's achievable, then that's my job done.
And you are coaching still at the moment? Yeah,
I'm doing a wee bit, I'm doing what I can. Yeah, I'm helping out some athletes, yeah. I wouldn't say I have a coaching business, but I definitely helping out a few lads.
And for those who are listening that are, I suppose, looking for inspiration or looking to get better at triathlon, what is the key component to get better at triathlon?
Just have to get out on the road. You have to train to get out on the road. You have to put the hours in. You have to make probably sacrifices that you're already that's happening in your life. And you just have to put the head down. It's not going to take months. It's going to take years. Years. Doesn't matter what age you are. If you're only starting off, it's going to take years. And just enjoy the process. There'll be a lot of ups and downs, and definitely more downs than ups.
You mentioned ups and downs, Bryan. What's been the highlight of your career to date?
Highlight? Well, I did mention Roth earlier, and we talked about Yall. So those two. But of late, look at Yall.
What about Kona?
No, Kona didn't really do it for me in terms of I love being there. I loved being a part of it, but I wouldn't have it as my ultimate. It was an absolute war, of it. Like Jesus, like it was probably the biggest kicking I've ever got. Because a fella like me will never do well in Kona, because it doesn't suit that big man. I can't, it's impossible for me to get the fluids and everything into me to keep going. I just can't do it. The way I sweat, how big I am, like it's a furnace. But I think it's a very special place. Definitely, I'd like to go back. I said I'd love to go back as a professional, but had I won Yall, I would have got the spot. But I couldn't tell you would I have taken it or not have taken it, because it was never presented to me. So I don't know what way I would have went. Yeah, no, Kona it's the World Championships, but I think there's other things that have happened to me that have topped Kona. Maybe that's probably the best way of answering that.
So how are you keeping your focus now, Bryan, for training and keeping on top of everything now that we don't have any races for the moment? Everything has been suspended until the 30th of June insofar as triathlon and activities. So, how do you keep your focus and your motivation to continue to get better, to get faster, to get stronger?
Well, it doesn't change really. It just circumstances of where you train have changed, but there's a bigger problem going on in the world at the moment. So I kind of have to put that selfish head that we have as athletes to one side. There's more important things happening at the moment, but I think for your own well-being, definitely for mine, I need to be doing something. So, you're just keeping yourself ready. You're keeping your toe in the water to be ready for something to happen. That's the way I'm thinking at the moment. I just need to be ready to race. If somebody said, this is happening in June, do you want to go? And you're kind of looking at yourself going, oh, I should have done something, Whereas now I'm kind of like everybody. I think you're kind of just keeping yourself right.
You mentioned at the start of our chat, Bryan, that you were doing more training now than you were doing before we went into lockdown. So what does a typical training week look like for you now?
Well, probably average at about 2.5 hours a day training, where if that's a run or a bike or a bit of gym. So I kind of work my head. I don't write anything down lately. I kind of just go with the flow. Because you have kids and stuff, you kind of wake up. If one of them turned around and said, I want to play tennis now, you coming, and you're ready to go out on the bike turbo for an hour, you kind of, okay, you want to put a bit of time into them. So, but the typical week is I'm probably doing about 10 to 12 hours on the turbo, mix of everything, and then about, I'd say, 5 hours running at the minute.
And how are you protecting your swim?
Well, I have cords. I bought some stretchable cords that I never used, and I took them out of the box a couple of weeks ago, and I've been wrapped around a tree and just bending over and doing the high elbow. I don't miss the swimming training. I don't enjoy it anyway. But that's all I'm doing. Gym work, lifting weights again. Haven't been lifting weights in years. So I had a swim bench, but I gave it to Donica about 2 months ago.
And funny that you mentioned Donica, because I did want to chat to you about being a guide for Donica McCarthy, who also was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and also Eve, your sister, being a guide for Katie George Dunleavy. And that's another story of how did you end up as a guide with Donica and potentially going to the Tokyo Olympics?
I was chatting to Eamon Tilley one day. I said, have you any fellas half decent there give a crack at the triathlon? And he says, I do. And that's it. The rest is history. I jumped in, went to a training day and met Donica, did a bit of training, a few races, and I've been helping him ever since. It's as simple as that, because I have experience of the tandem with Cycling Ireland when Eve and I started out. And yeah, just as simple as that.
Do you get to train much together prior to the situation we're in? Were you getting much training time? I know you were getting a lot of racing done and you were chasing those qualifying points for Tokyo. So what happens now that you can't see each other?
I don't know. Well, Donica could get outside. We were trying to train on Fridays, so he's in Dublin. So he come down to me on a Friday and we get out for a spin on Fridays. That probably hadn't been regular enough. And then different things would crop up. He might have work, I might not be available. But Donica's a couple of good guides in Dublin, and Dave Tilley helps him out too on the bike. He's brilliant. He would take him out. But Donica's training wouldn't really change much now. The only thing he's not getting in the water, which he was making massive strides in the water. Like he was swimming 5-6 times a week in UCD, I think. And he's come on an awful lot. But I'm glad he has my swim bench, because he needs it more than I do, and I probably wouldn't use it if it was here anyway, because I don't like it. But look, Donica isn't in any different situation than anybody else, I suppose.
And Bryan, with yourself and Eve being such strong athletes and excelling in not only cycling and triathlon and sport in general, do you think, has it come down to the genes, or is there something that's innate in both of you that has led you to being so successful?
Yeah, Eve always wanted to be like me. She, all her life, she just has been in my shadow, and she just couldn't get out of it. And just lately I said, you know what, Eve, you go ahead, you go in front for a while. I'll give you a bit of that light there. So she's put me way back here, because all Eve's life she's been known as Bryan McCrystal's sister. But since all these medals have come into Eve's house, I'm now known as her brother. So did I say that right? Yeah, so I'm Eve McCrystal's brother. You're Eve McCrystal's brother. Whereas she was always the other one.
You must be incredibly proud of what she's achieved, Bryan.
Yeah, she puts in the work. Serious amount of work. They've a great thing going. Herself and Katie, the two of them, equal partnership. She's putting in the work, he's putting in the work. They've got a great support network. Neil coaching them. Yeah, they're putting in the work. They're the best in the world for a reason, because they are putting in hard yards. Hard and smart yards.
You talk about putting in the work, Bryan, but also technology and equipment. I want to ask you a little bit about that, because you've been in triathlon quite a while now, or at least in the sport of cycling and triathlon. How have you seen the equipment change over the years, and what has been the biggest change in getting faster other than training? What's the biggest change in equipment available?
Equipment, well, yeah, it's all bike really. So, well, wetsuits, probably, yeah, different wetsuits. I definitely have responded well to wetsuits. I was lucky to get a De Boer wetsuit this year, and I think I took a couple of minutes off myself, and like that wasn't from the training, so I was happy with that. The main man himself got me one, Dave Sheridan, so if anybody wants one, look him up. But in terms of biking, the equipment, the bikes have come on, but the most important thing is position. It's how you sit on a bike. You know, at the end of the day, lots of guys have stuff to sell, but will they make it any faster? Yes, but not to the degree you might think. The biggest thing you can focus on is your position. And like, different equipment works different with each person. So if you were to put on a specialized helmet and I was to do the same, you could be faster in it and I could be slower in it. But it's been advertised as the fastest helmet. But everyone's head is different and how you sit on a bike. So you need to do your own investigating. But how do you know? The thing is, you're caught because you don't know if it's fast until you bloody buy it. So you're kind of, if you buy something, you're stuck with it. So I've chopped and changed over the years, and that's years and years and years of process. That's a personal project. You nearly have to see yourself as a personal project, a master's degree nearly. But I think I've found my kind of, like, it's only the other day I'm back putting different headsets on my time trial bike, even now, you know. But I have to adapt and change because I was riding my time trial bike on the turbo a couple of times and my back was at me. So I'm kind of thinking, okay, I actually know that that's the fastest position, but I can't hold it. So what's the point having the fastest position if I can't sit in it? So then comfort should be a factor. So that's what I'm playing with now in recovery and rest days, is my position on the time trial bike. And I think, and where I actually got it bang on right was in Youghal. I was very high at the front end in the bike. I put a larger stem on it, and there was fellas looking at me going, Jesus, like a high Nelly.
A fridge.
Yeah. But I was solid. I did not move, you know. And I think I'm better off. I think, and I'm not supple. I'm not young, so I think I have to be just work with that. But I'll tell you about it some more, you know.
It's the small tweaks that can make the big difference in the long run, really, can't they? To everything: food, recovery, training, setup, everything. Yeah,
all the little things matter. But it's important not to get bogged down by them all, you know. You can really give yourself, like I've seen myself, you know, going into races and, you know, things haven't gone right and you just think you're going to have the worst race of all time, and then you turn up and you're like Superman. You feel invincible, and then you cross the line going, what the hell? Why were you giving yourself such a hard time? That happens all the time. So I try not to give myself as hard a time, but that's easier said than done, you know. The instinct in us, you know, it's kind of normally comes out more times.
Do you get frustrated with yourself when things don't go right?
Oh yeah, because like you do put a lot of emphasis and hopes on results, support and backing that you get. You know, you want to give return, and then when you turn up, you're like, you feel like you know, and then it's not as if you can turn up pick a race the following week and do it to kind of, you know, make up for the last one because you're wrecked from the one you didn't do great in, you know. So that's where bike racing would be different from cycling. So like if you were cycling this Saturday in a race and you were flying, you thought you were doing great, turned up and got your arse handed to you, and you can just turn up the next Sunday or even the next day and win, you know, whereas triathlon doesn't work like that. You turn up on Saturday and you do a half Ironman or whatever and you go crap. It's not as if you can do another half Ironman the following week. You have to wait another month or two or a few months until the next one. So that's where the difference is, you know. With bike racing, you can forget about that awful race that you have like that, whereas a half Ironman will stay with you. You know, if you have a race, your top race, like Barcelona, say in October, and like most people don't finish an Ironman delighted with themselves in terms of performance. You have the whole winter to remember that, you know. You're like, you know, it's eating at you the whole winter, you know. It's very hard to forget the bad results in Ironman, I think.
Does that fuel your passion, though, to be better?
That does, yeah. Of course it does. It has to. It has to, you know. It has to. I think it's only natural that it does, you know.
You mentioned your support crew, and obviously your wife, Karen, and your kids, Rian and Era. They've been a massive support to you as well. And Karen is a great athlete in her own right.
She is. She's a marathon woman. She's done Dublin plenty of times. We do meet each other on the hall.
And do you coach her?
I don't. No, I don't. I do advise her. That advice doesn't always be taken. She knows where she's at.
And what about your own coaching, Bryan, in terms of you being a coached athlete? Do you have your own coach?
No, not at the moment, no. I have worked with plenty of lads over the years. Well, only 3 people over the years. But I'm very hard to coach, I think, because I nearly let down the person that I'm with because of my routine and lifestyle. I can't actually stick to a set plan. Thursday could be something certain that happens on Thursday on the plan, and then just everything goes out the window. I have to do this, that, or the other. So I'm not really, just nearly say I'm not coachable as such, but that's actually a sticky point at the moment. I'm wondering, will I soar something? Will I change things up? You know, I don't know. I'm wondering.
We'll watch this space. And when we do come out of this cocoon that we're in at the moment, where we're all at home, what race would you most like to do?
I don't know. I might go back to Wales if that's about. But I have not put any thought into it at all because it's not worth it, because we don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Or the Hardman race down in Kerry. I'd like to help and support that race, because I don't think it has got the backing of the Irish guy. We're kind of flying away here, there, and everywhere, and I think what they're doing down there is very good. And maybe if we can give them a turn and support it, I think that would be good, you know, support our own races.
And before we finish up, Bryan, you've been an inspiration to many people coming through, male and female, many athletes. We've had lots of requests for you to be on the show, but I'd love to know who inspires you.
I'm going to be really sad here, right? I'm going to say my wife. You know, I don't know if that's sad or not, but it is, because I like the way she goes about her business, and she does kind of help me through day to day, you know. So, and that's me just being honest. She probably that support network that I have around me kind of helps me and encourages me to get out and do what I do. And then playing ball, listening to me when things aren't great. You know, I'd have to as well, my sister too. She's a great inspiration in terms of what she's done the last number of years and how she's gone about it. You know, she's really only has become an athlete. It's remarkable in what she's done, because she's only been an athlete for a very short period of time, and how she's got to this place is unbelievable. Very proud of her. But yeah, my family, my general family, you know, and yeah, I think they'd be my inspirations, I suppose. And
one final question. If you could go back and do anything differently across your triathlon career, what would it be?
I don't think I'd do anything different. I honestly probably started earlier. That's probably what I would do. Yeah. I don't have any regrets, you know, because you live and die by decisions you make at the time, and you're never going to make the right one. So if anything, I probably would have started this a lot earlier. But my other sport gave me some of the best different years of my life, and I have very good friends out of that to this day. So I don't think I'd change an awful lot. Just trying to be the best that you can be. Approach every day, as a new day. Just try and wake up in the morning, be the best version of yourself. That's kind of, doesn't always work out like that. Doesn't always work out like that. But if you can try and be like that, I think it's probably the best way.
Well, Bryan McCrystal, some sound words of advice to finish up our chat this afternoon. Thank you once again for joining me, and I wish you every success with all of your training, racing, and I really do look forward to seeing you coming down the finish line, and I can't wait to see you take the title at an Ironman race in the near future.
Oh, I don't know about that. Thanks, Joanne.
Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget you can get in touch with any feedback or guest suggestions by emailing me on trytalkingsport@gmail.com. And remember to tune in to our live Facebook chats on the Try Talking Sport page on Tuesday and Thursday nights at 8:30 p.m. If you are enjoying the shows, please pop a review on Apple Podcasts or on the Try Talking Sport Facebook page. Or why not share the show with a friend who might enjoy the content and be inspired, encouraged and motivated to passionately pave their own way in endurance sport. Until next time, wash your hands, stay safe and stay at home.